Hi, I'm Joe Murray, creator of Rocko's Modern Life, and you're watching 107 Facts on Frederator.
While a nervous wallaby and his cow best friend tackling everyday problems might have once seemed like a long shot for a cartoon show, Rocko's Modern Life ended up becoming one of the most popular cartoons of the 1990s. Since the show's premiere, audiences have laughed along with the hilarious jokes and implied adult humor in the adventures of Rocko, Heifer, Filbert, and Mr. and Mrs. Bighead. Hi everyone, I'm Justin with Channel Frederator, and we're here to check out this series that has become so iconic that it's gearing up for a reboot. So take a seat at the chewy chicken because we've got 107 facts about Rocko's Modern Life. Let's get started. Rocko's Modern Life premiered on September 18th, 1993, and was created by animator Joe Murray. Murray began his career as a cartoonist and was hesitant to transition into animation. However, Nickelodeon ended up showing interest in a pencil test for an earlier independent film of his called My Dog Zero. Nickelodeon asked if Murray wanted to turn My Dog Zero into a series, to which he politely declined, and then he took a look at his sketchbooks and decided to develop Rocko's Modern Life. The characters of Rocko's Modern Life are older than the show itself. According to Murray, the gang was living a flattened life in his sketchbooks for years while he was working on animated films and doing illustrations for advertising. Initially, Rocko was a comic strip character named Travis in a comic strip called Zack and Travis. The show's original name was The Rocko Show. Other possible titles included Rocko Rama and Cartoon Party, but Rocko's Modern Life was Murray's original title idea and he wanted to keep it. In the original pilot, Rocko's fur was actually yellow. His color was changed after a toy company informed the team that they were interested in making merchandise for the show, but they actually already had a yellow character. Murray then made Rocko beige, however the company never made toys of the show. The initial pilot isn't the same one that audiences saw when the show premiered in September 1993. Murray's first pilot episode was called Sucker for the Suckomatic and featured Heifer, Rocko's green-haired sidekick. Executives feared that it wouldn't test well with certain audiences due to its strange nature, but Murray didn't want to do the episode without Heifer, so instead he wrote Trasho Madness, which was ultimately approved. The oftentimes adult humor of the show came from Murray himself and was skewed a bit older. Nickelodeon told him to, quote, "do what you do in your independent films," end quote, which were usually geared toward adults. Murray also didn't want to dumb things down for the audience. Unlike a lot of animated shows, a lot of the team members behind Rocko's Modern Life had never worked on a cartoon show before. Murray hired improv actors and comic artists, which helped the show's episodes be more avant-garde and avoid being formulaic. The creative director of the show from 1995 to 1996 was Steven Hillenburg. After Rocko's Modern Life, Hillenburg and much of the creative team from Rocko moved on to make another cartoon you might be a little bit familiar with, SpongeBob SquarePants. The backgrounds for the show, which were drawn in a uniquely crooked and wonky style, were hand-painted by the staff. Additionally, every title card for the show was an original painting. This approach was taken by another popular 90s cartoon, Batman. According to Murray, this crooked look had been a part of his illustration style for a while, and it matched up with the wonky, bent-up satirical nature of the show. One reoccurring theme in the show was poking fun at conglomerates and capitalism. In one episode, a chicken named Karen ended a job interview only to learn that she was auditioning to be slaughtered and deep-fried, which honestly sounds a lot like the real-life job market. Murray wasn't terribly confident that the pilot of Rocko's Modern Life would get picked up by Nickelodeon. He planned to collect his pay and start funding his next independent film. He was shocked when, about 3.5 months later, Nickelodeon greenlit the show. Murray was later surprised when the show was renewed for more seasons. The production of the first season coincided with a very rough time in his life, and he initially thought he'd create one season and then move back to the Bay Area. However, and luckily for us, the show was renewed in December 1993. Half of the pilot was animated by Joe Murray alone. For the other half, he had help from other animators in the Bay Area. According to Murray, he and fellow animators Nick Jennings and George Maestri jerry-rigged an old 35mm camera stand in one of the offices and were shooting around the clock. After filming all night, they drove the film 45 minutes to San Francisco for processing. Rocko's Modern Life was co-produced by two studios, Games Animation and Joe Murray Productions. This was the very first show Games Animation produced after it was founded by Nickelodeon. Unlike most future Nicktoons, Rocko's Modern Life wasn't produced at Nickelodeon Studios in Burbank because Nicktoons didn't technically exist yet. Instead, Joe Murray Productions and Games Animation rented a space on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City, as well as a building on Vineland, which was also the home to the beginning of the Hey Arnold production. At its height, Rocko's Modern Life had a staff of around 270 animators. This included 70 animators in its American studio and about 200 more working in Korea. The production behind Rocko's Modern Life was extremely casual. Murray has noted that as a newbie into the industry at the time, he had no idea how an animation studio was supposed to be run, so the environment was relaxed. Even veterans of the industry said it was the most fun they have ever had while working on a show. Lots of material for Rocko came from random happenings around the office. Staff members would share their ideas over the phone with the rest of the team, and these would include anything from impersonations of Murray himself to comedy routines to new music. The O naming pattern in the show, such as the town being called O-Town and the mega corporation Conglommo, was Murray's idea. Murray explained that he always got a laugh out of stores and corporations named in such a way because he felt that it seemed to homogenize their products and limit individuality. Another reason for the O naming pattern was to stress the importance of volume and quantity for modern consumption. According to Murray, this satire helped make the show's world feel broad and generic. Unsurprisingly enough, Rocko is canonically from Australia. In Murray's personal canon, he claims that Rocko visited the States with his family as a child, where he first met Seibert. After graduating high school, Rocko moved to the United States on his own. Rocko's name is partially based on his species, which is a rock wallaby. The other reason is that Murray wanted to have Rocko to have a name that sounded like a fighter's name since he stood up to the perils of modern life.
Garbage Day is a very dangerous day.
Rocko's species originated with a real-life experience. While Murray was brainstorming for the show, he visited a zoo in the Bay Area and came across a wallaby who seemed oblivious to the chaos of the people and animals around him, and thus, our favorite beleaguered marsupial was born. Most of the characters in the show had last names. For example, Heifer Wolf, Filbert Shellbach, and Ed Bighead. However, Rocko was the only character who didn't. This was because the creators couldn't decide on one they liked enough, so Rocko was referred to exclusively on a first-name basis. Rocko did have a last name briefly during the development of the show. They played around with Rocko's last name being Rama, but they never ended up using it. The creators also toyed with the idea of calling him Rocko Stretch Brain because whenever he was startled or disgusted, his brain would pop out. However, it failed to make the cut. Rocko's shoe size was a US men's 9, however, I'm not sure what that would translate into in wallaby feet. Rocko was shorter than all the other principal characters, with a canonical height of 3.5 feet tall. Rocko considers his signature triangle print shirt his lucky shirt. This was because it was what he was wearing when he found his beloved pup Spunky on his doorstep, and so Rocko is rarely seen without it. Inconsistencies in the background stories of the show's main trio were done on purpose, because often between friends, memories are individualized and often become skewed or remembered differently. Rocko's dog Spunky had an ambiguous breed. Murray believed him to be a mutt, and he was modeled after a not-so-smart dog that Murray had as a child, who also inspired the independent film My Dog Zero. Murray said that, quote, Spunky is related to Zero in a way. Murray set Rocko's age at 20 at the start of the show. It's worth mentioning that the life expectancy of most wallabies are 11 to 14 years. Maybe Rocko's 20 in wallaby years? Heifer's first ever appearance wasn't actually in Rocko's Modern Life. He first premiered in a promotional short for MTV in 1989, animated by Joe Murray, in which Heifer flies out of a TV with the MTV logo plastered on his butt. One of Murray's favorite episodes was Season 1's Who's for Dinner, in which Rocko agrees to have dinner with Heifer's family and is shocked that they're all wolves. The episode's content was a breakthrough for the show because it addressed the topic of adoption, which previously had been off-limit for kids shows. The LA Times called the episode, quote, a high watermark in animation television. Heifer was based on a friend of Murray's who was also adopted by humans, not wolves, and particularly likes bologna sandwiches. A character that Murray created but was unable to include in the show was Rocko's sister. She was an older sibling named Magdalene and also had 2 kids. Murray even wrote an episode called Wake Up Maggie about Magdalene being narcoleptic, but it never moved forward. Originally, Murray wanted Danny Elfman, writer of The Simpsons theme and many others, to compose the show's theme song, but he was all booked up. Murray said he always knew he wanted the B-52s to be involved somehow. During the pilot, they asked Alan Silvestri to do the score, and Murray said he laughed at us. Silvestri scored Who Framed Roger Rabbit and is best known for scoring the Back to the Future trilogy. Rocko's appearance changed slightly between episodes. This was because the character model sheets were mostly in Murray's head. Once the show grew, Murray had to teach other animators how to draw him, and Rocko's design was tweaked to be simpler. The changes made to Rocko also influenced his characterization in the show. Murray said that in the process of quick drawing the character, Rocko naturally started to change from a more paranoid and victimized character to an overall happier person. Talk about character growth. Certain parts of Heifer's body were drawn to resemble food items, in part to make him easier to draw. His mouth was shaped like a hot dog, while his body was like a hamburger. Lots of episodes were based on real-life experiences that the show's team had. Bye Bye Birdie in Season 3 is about Heifer trying to take care of Filbert's bird, but accidentally causing its death. According to story writer George Maestri, the idea for the episode partly came from watching a neighbor's pet bird that dropped dead after 2 days when he was 12 years old. Murray explained that it was also inspired by an article about someone who was pet-sitting a dog and the dog died. Instead of telling the owners, the person put it into a suitcase and left it at a train station and told the owners it ran away. Well, inspiration does come in many forms. Another episode based on a real-life experience was the 2-part episode Wacky Deli from Season 3, which is based on real-life issues faced by Murray and the other show staff members in the animation industry. Ralph Bighead was based on Murray himself. He first appeared in Wacky Deli as a way for Murray to channel and display his frustrations with having a successful animated TV show. Murray also voiced Ralph Bighead himself. Ralph Bighead was a very shouty character, just like his dad Ed, specifically because this was out of character for Murray. According to writer Martin Olson, Murray rarely raised his voice, so it was an in-joke to have him perform his animated alter ego as being loud and angry. The live-action meatloaf sequence in Wacky Deli was filmed by Murray and producer Richard Leroy on Murray's patio. In order to capture the colors and visual aesthetic of the 1960s, they filmed it on a wind-up camera. Murray said that flies started to get attracted to the old meatloaf, and we included the flies in the final shot that appeared in the episode. Ed and Bev Bighead were based on real neighbors that Murray had while he was growing up. Murray described them as the kinds of people who, quote, whenever the baseball fell on their lawn, they would never give it back. Bev Bighead's hairstyle is based on the hairstyle Murray's mother rocked in the 1960s. The Bighead parents were both voiced by Charlie Adler. Bev's raspy voice in particular was based on actor Harvey Fierstein.
Oh, I don't think I have the strength.
The animals chosen for each characters were intended to be social caricatures, matching each character's personality to an animal. Filbert, a shy and neurotic guy, is a turtle, while the slow and good-hearted Heifer is a cow. The Bigheads are cane toads. Murray chose that particular species because at the time, Australia, where Rocko is from, was having a problem with a cane toad infestation, much like Rocko himself. Dr. Hutchinson, a cat with a hook for a hand, was created because a female executive told Murray and his team that she'd like to see more female role models, and the result was pretty awesome. She originally asked for, quote, a professional woman, someone with a good hook, end quote. She meant hook as in good personality, but Murray interpreted the metaphor literally and gave Dr. Hutchinson an actual hook for a hand. Guess you could say they were strong-armed into it. Rocko was voiced by actor Carlos Alazraqui, who also voiced Mr. Crocker on The Fairly OddParents and Nestor in Happy Feet. Heifer was voiced by Tom Kenny. Kenny has also done a wide variety of other voices in cartoons, including the Mayor of Townsville on the Powerpuff Girls, the Ice King in Adventure Time, and of course, SpongeBob on SpongeBob SquarePants. Voicing Heifer was one of Tom Kenny's first real acting jobs, and then SpongeBob premiered a few years later and the rest is history. Rocko's Modern Life served as a foot in the door for many of its staff into the world of animation. Two of the show's writers, Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, went on to create Phineas and Ferb for the Disney Channel. The staff also included Chris Savino, who went on to create The Loud House, Robert Skull, who created Bubble Guppies, and of course Steven Hillenburg, who created the oh-so-famous SpongeBob SquarePants. Like many of us in real life, these characters all held a variety of jobs throughout the series. Rocko mainly worked as a comic store employee, but he was also a runway underwear model, a plumber's assistant, and an animator. Filbert was usually a professional photographer, but he also had stints as a DMV clerk, a lounge singer, and also worked on Stuff on a Stick, which was modeled after the hot dog on a stick chain in mall food courts. But it's actually Heifer who had the most jobs: security guard, golf course greenskeeper, coffee shop barista, animator, and Chokey Chicken employee, whose work life most resembles your own. Rocko had a job as a specialty phone operator during one particular episode. What kind of phone operator?
Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby.
Well, on the wall behind him there was a sign that said, remember, be hot, be naughty, be courteous. It's kinda easy to tell what Rocko was doing there. The Chokey Chicken was the name of the diner the characters frequented in early seasons, and had a giant choking chicken as the mascot. However, beginning in Season 4, Episode 9, this was changed to the Chewy Chicken, due to the previous title hinting at a sexual act. This was made after production already created the episodes and left the show. Luckily, the new upcoming special has it back to the old Chokey Chicken. Speaking of censorship, one episode was taken off the air. Season 1's Leapfrogs was about a neglected Bev Bighead trying to seduce an unsuspecting Rocko, which really didn't go over well with parents. Filbert was voiced by Doug Lawrence, who also voiced Edward in Murray's other show, Camp Lazlo. And you might know Lawrence from another iconic character role as well, Plankton on SpongeBob SquarePants. Doug Lawrence wanted the part of Filbert early on since he sympathized with the character. He anonymously snuck his own tape into the collection of auditions, and even though Murray didn't know who he was, he loved Lawrence's audition the moment he heard it. Adults consisted of a fifth of the show's viewership during its original airing, perhaps due to the show being infamous for slipping a healthy dose of adult references, but overall, Rocko's Modern Life was actually very high in household viewership, which included all ages. One blatantly obscene joke was assigned for the office of Dr. Bendova, Rocko's doctor, in the season 1 episode where he had the flu. This episode contained another blink and you'll miss it joke. On the doctor's wall there was an eye chart, and instead of the usual random assortment of letters, the chart says, "I am a prisoner in the crazy doc's broom closet." In another episode, Rocko was out in the woods picking berries. After he took from a particular branch, a bear leapt out of the foliage, yowling in pain and clutching his groin. Another memorable adult-orientated joke was in season 1's Road Rash, which only made it on air once and features the No Tell Motel, a pretty overt reference to a sex motel. There was a board game featured in an episode called Spank the Monkey. While yes, it featured an actual figurine of a monkey that was part of the game, there are more obscene implications of this joke I probably don't need to go into more detail about. One adult joke in the show managed to riff on the fact that it was an actual adult joke. In a scene where Rocko wore his pants on his head, a man wearing a suit with a name tag reading Censor slides into frame to drop a censor bar over Rocko's unmentionables. Only one episode of the show ever featured a celebrity voice actor. Richard Simmons, the famously energetic aerobics instructor, stars in No Pain, No Gain from season 1. Apparently, Richard Simmons and Joe Murray did not get along during recording, and Murray said, quote, "Simmons left in a huff." Bev Bighead appeared on the show before her husband, Ed Bighead. She makes her debut in No Pain, No Gain of the first season. Bev Bighead was naked twice on the show. Yeah, starting with the very first episode. Murray and company clearly didn't want to waste time testing the network's censors. Filbert's first appearance came significantly after that of the other main characters. He was first seen in season 1, episode 4, however he wasn't named. He simply appeared as a nameless DMV employee. He was also seen as a grocery store checker in the episode Rocko's Happy Sack. Filbert underwent more character development than most of the other characters. He began the show as a bit of a shut-in and hypochondriac.
You turn the page and wash your hands.
But throughout the show, he transitioned into a main character who was a bit braver, eventually marrying Dr. Hutchinson. Rocko's address revealed on his driver license in skid marks is 1172 Boogie Boulevard. I wonder if that's across from Electric Avenue. You know, like the song Nevermind. Boogie Boulevard sounds like a great place to have a block party, though. Occasionally, Rocko's Modern Life touched on themes of prejudice. Turtles and cats are natural enemies, and the show paired off the turtle Filbert with the cat Dr. Hutchinson. Hutchinson's mother's bigotry against turtles was revealed to come from the fact that she was once with one, but they separated, and she still had feelings for him. The show's executives initially didn't want Filbert and Dr. Hutchinson to get married. The idea, which first appeared in the episode's outline, didn't go over well at first because linear development didn't exist for Nicktoons, but Murray convinced them to let it happen. According to Martin Olson, one of the show's writers, the marriage was a really memorable moment in the show for the characters and the crew. The show in its entirety wasn't released on DVD for a very long time, which frustrated fans and led to lots of low-quality pirated versions of the show being sold. The company Shout Factory acquired its rights in 2011 and released the complete series in 2013. The set even contained 2 banned episodes, Leapfrogs and Hef in a Handbasket, the latter of which was temporarily banned on Nickelodeon due to complaints of showing Heifer selling his soul to the devil, and dealing with the general topic of hell and Satan, but it has since been aired on Nicktoons.
I never knew that!
Rocko's Modern Life wasn't just adored by fans, it was also award-winning. It received a Daytime Emmy in 1993 for Outstanding Sound Editing. Rocko's Modern Life was the highest-rated launch of any Nicktoon. This was in spite of the complaints that the show received about being too adult-oriented to show to kids on a Sunday morning time slot. The belch talking in the episode Belch of Destiny was done by a producer at Warner Brothers who was known by the show's staff as a skilled belch talker. While ended up unable to replicate his unique talent in the recording studio, a few days later he sent the Rocko's Modern Life team a tape he had recorded of him belching at home, which was then used in the show. Murray's favorite period of the show is the series' first season, which contained more slice-of-life plotlines and satirized modern life, with the conveniences of modern life leading to trouble for Rocko and friends. Murray scaled back his role on the show after season 3 and handed over much of his directorial duties to Steven Hillenburg. Murray had planned to leave the show after the 4th season, which is when the show ended up being cancelled in 1996. Murray said it was pretty much a mutual decision. He decided not to do it anymore, and the network decided not to make any more. He said, quote, "We had both both run our course. A running gag on the show was the constant appearance and mentioning of pineapples. To the crew, and in particular Seibert voice actor Mr. Lawrence, pineapples were inherently funny, so they included them as often as possible. There was a reference to the famous Robert De Niro movie Taxi Driver in Belch of Destiny, when Heifer burped out the phrase, "You talkin' to me?" just like Robert De Niro's iconic character in the film. Rocko's Modern Life had a much easier time with the network censors during its first 2 seasons. According to All Is Rocky, episodes from the early seasons aired after Ren and Stimpy, which had set the standard for cynical, weird humor and adult jokes. After the second season, Nickelodeon became more family-friendly, so the show became more heavily censored. This is a blink and you'll miss it moment, but there was a moose in the Big Head's fridge in the season 1 episode Leapfrogs, with absolutely no context other than holding the Big Head's coffee, almost like a Flintstones animal appliance. Season 1 episode 8's Jet Scream contained a reference to a rather grim real-life event. It depicts Heifer reading a book called Survive, which was a parody of the book Alive, the story of the Andes survivors, about a rugby team whose plane crashed in the Andes and were forced to eat one another to survive. In fact, if you notice at the end of the episode, Rocko is at a baggage claim and the only thing that comes out is a rugby ball and cleats. Of course, Rocko's luggage was in space. There was a pretty notable reference to The Shining in episode 9 of season 2, Uniform Behavior. In it, Heifer became a security guard with an obsession of following the law, leading to a riff on the film's most iconic line when he shouted, "Here's Heifer." Another episode was a bit of an homage to Alfred Hitchcock. Ed is Dead from season 3 was about a murder mystery in the style of Hitchcock Presents. This episode is also an extended homage to his classic film Psycho, and includes a reference to a number of shots from the film, as well as naming the hotel itself the Bates Motel, spelled like fish bait rather than the character from the film's last name. Some kids might have caught these references, but they were either too old to be watching the show or too young to have watched the movie. An episode from the first season contained a bonus for Spanish speakers. When Spunky was being chased by a crab in the episode Sand in Your Navel, the crab sees a crab shack and runs off and yells a rather obscene phrase for "Oi, my butt itches" in Spanish. There's an answer to the question, which is funnier, bananas or cheese, that Heifer asks in the show. According to Murray, it's bananas because while cheese smells funny, bananas are mostly inherently comedic. But the show's executives wanted to replace the banana references with cheese because they felt that cheese was funnier. Murray explained that, quote, "The question came up during a section of Sucker for the Suckomatic where many things that go whizzing by get sucked into the vacuum. In the original board, a banana goes by and an executive asked if we could change it to cheese because cheese was funnier." End quote. Are you team cheese or team banana? Let us know in the comments below. Another of Murray's favorite episodes was Snowballs, which was based on an unfortunate skiing accident that he experienced as a child. Like Rocko does in the episode, Murray actually once flew off his skis and into the air. In a quick frame in one episode, discerning viewers could catch a sight of a dark fortune in a fortune cookie Seibert was eating, which read, "Bad luck and misfortune will infest your pathetic soul for all eternity." Ouch. Instead of Rocko's Modern Life using the word hell, they instead used heck. However, the animators had a bit of fun poking at the censors, because on the signs outside of the underworld, 2 L's were crossed out and replaced with a C and a K. Like most cartoons from the era, Rocko's Modern Life had a fast food tie-in. Hardee's and Carl's Jr. restaurants, depending on the region, distributed toys for the show. In 2012, the voice cast of the show did a live reading. They performed Wacky Deli at the Downtown Independent in Los Angeles. The show briefly inspired a comic book series. 7 issues were published by Marvel Comics and were released on a monthly basis from June 1994 to December 1994 and featured some artwork by Murray himself. After Rocko's Modern Life finished airing, Murray went on to produce another weird and funny Nicktoon, Camp Lazlo, which premiered 9 years later on Cartoon Network. And he also went on to create children's books as well. Rocko's Modern Life is gearing up for a reboot. Audiences will be getting a one-off TV movie in 2018 that will be called Rocko's Modern Life: Static Cling. Once again, I'm Justin with Channel Frederator, and thanks for watching 107 Facts About Rocko's Modern Life. Who's your favorite character? Did we miss anything? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to click that bell icon to become part of our awesome notification squad, as we have new videos dropping every single day. So make sure to subscribe to Channel Frederator, your cartoon central on the internet, and never forget, Frederator loves you.